And to share his views on mindset, I'm pleased to say he's joining us now, is Josh. Hi, Josh.
Hi there. Morning, everyone. Thank you very, very much for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. And I feel like I've seen you before, Josh. It's you've been on the TV. Am I right in thinking you were in a NatWest advert?
I was. Apparently, there was absolutely nobody else available that day. So me, with a face for radio, was asked to be in the NatWest ad.
Brilliant. And I see you got a couple of great guitars on there. Are you a guitarist yourself?
Yes, I'm a bass player. They are the most expensive ornaments I own at the minute, but I did play in a band in my youth, and I play in a wedding band now because it's a way that musicians can actually make money. So yeah, but at the minute they're just decorating the wall until we can get out and about again.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, wedding industry is one of those, like my events industry, that got hard hit. So lots of people looking to bounce back. And you're going to share a few tips and slides from your perspective on mindset, and I'm sure you'll be mentioning NatWest as well. So over to you, Josh.
Thanks very much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I am going to talk through mindset. My name is Josh, as you know, and I'm very, very privileged to look after the entrepreneurship team within NatWest. It's a really interesting area. It's a really interesting team within the bank, and our whole purpose is to support businesses from startup through to scale up. And a huge part of that is mindset. So no matter when an organization interacts with us for the first time, whether they're interested in the idea of becoming an entrepreneur and they want to know more, or if they're already a multi-million-pound turnover business, the session that we're going to go through this morning, or a slightly abridged session that we're going to go through this morning, is the first thing that everybody sees, because mindset is crucial to what we do. It shapes everything and everything that we do. And so we have to make sure that we understand where our own mindset's going to push us forward and hold us back. Now, most people think they've got a fairly decent lid on that, but as we go through this, we'll sort of talk through and understand just how powerful our mindset can be in our decision making without us even realizing it. And so I am going to share some slides. Hopefully you can all see that, and that's come through for you. Goes without saying, this is an interactive session, so please do send your questions in. I have got the chat box open down in the bottom corner of my screen here, so if you've got any questions, do send them in. I will get to them as quickly as I can and perhaps build them into the content. But this is what we're going to go through today. We're going to look at the importance of mindset, because as I said, it can motivate decision making. It gets in the way, and we don't often realize it sometimes, because most of the time our mindsets are quite benign. They shape who we are. They assist with everyday decision making, and so we don't really notice it. But then every now and again, when we're in an uncertain situation or a nervy situation, which, let's face it, as business owners, we have been for about 12 months now, our mindset can make decisions for us on our behalf. And if we don't catch it, if we're not aware of it, it can make decisions that aren't actually representative of us. And so once we've understood just how powerful it can be, we'll look at how you can define both growth and fixed mindsets. Now, they're really, really well-known terms. You'll more than likely have come across them before multiple times, but we're going to dive into exactly what they mean and exactly what we do have control over. And so fundamentally, if you've identified an area of yourself that you perhaps want to work on, an area of your own mindset, we'll look at how you can turn that fixed into growth. But the purpose of this session is not to say that to be a successful business owner, you've got to be growth mindset all the time, because you'd spend all your time innovating and improving things that work perfectly well. You'd never get anything done. And so having a right balance of growth and fixed mindset is really important. It's around identifying the fixed mindsets that present a threat and look at how you can turn those into growth mindset more of the time. And so we'll wrap up today in about 25 minutes time with a good sense of what you can take away from today to start understanding and developing your own mindset more. But as I said, if there's questions coming through, please do send them in. There's already some brilliant suggestions, as we talked about just then, around what you do to keep yourself moving forward, to keep yourself in a good mindset. And a big thanks to Jim Fletcher, who's met me at a previous event. I really must give you that tenner. Thank you very, very much. But it goes with the saying that everything that we talk about today, you can work on and you can start developing on our NatWest Business Builder portal. If you've not come across Business Builder before, it's a completely free online business accelerator. Basically, it's open to everybody. You don't have to be a NatWest customer. It's completely free. And you can, the only barrier to entry is you've got to have an internet connection. So I'll be dropping the link into the chat at the end of the session, but please do feel free, if what we go through today strikes a chord with you, to get yourself signed up and start to dive a few bits further. But to begin with, I'd like to start with a question, if I may. I'm not asking for a dictionary definition. I'm asking for what this word means to you. Mindset gets overquoted, it gets overdefined and perhaps underappreciated in terms of what it actually means. So when you see the word mindset written down, when you hear me say the word, what springs to mind? Just let me know what immediately springs to mind. Let me know in the chat the words that spring to mind when you see mindset. So Alison, attitude, yeah. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Yeah. Liz, have you seen this before? That's going to come on later. How you feel, focus, mentality. These are going faster than I can read them. How you think, thoughts and beliefs, focus. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much to everybody that's sending these in. You know, getting out of the bed the right way. It's a big one. Now, this is an interesting thing, because every single answer that's come in there, I can't honestly say, no, that's wrong. You've got that definition wrong. And herein lies the problem, you see. Because if we've got to understand mindset, if we want to work on it and develop it, we need to really, really define it. And so everything that's come in, yes, self-belief, the perception of whether something can be achieved or not, whether we're goal-oriented, whether it's, you know, whether it's how we focus, whether we get a positive or a negative sense, all of those things, it's tied in with that. But I actually think that all of those things are the puppet's limbs, and mindset is the little sort of four-way control at the top that's pulling all of those things. For me, mindset is the established set of attitudes held by an individual. So the attitudes that we hold that motivate our sense of self-belief, the set of attitudes that we hold that mean that we can actually believe in ourselves, that we can set goals, because quite often our mindset will hold us back from setting the goals we want to because we don't believe we can achieve them. And so actually, if we think about all the traits that have come in, they're very much the monkeys in this, and our mindset is the organ grinder. So where do these attitudes come from then? Where do they form part of us? Where do we get these attitudes from? It's fair to say that yes, we absolutely are the product of the 5 people that we spend the most time with. And so we can inherit attitudes and beliefs at any point in our life. But when does this established set really take place, do we think? Where do we think they come from? Childhood, absolutely. Straight off the bat, loads and loads of answers at the same time. Childhood, yeah, absolutely. It stands to reason, right? Now, I'm not quite sure of the age range, but definitely as we're a child, right the way into our early teen years, really, simply because we are growing, our brains are developing, our entire body's developing. We go to school every day. We're in an attitude, we're in a process of elongated learning. Our brain is used to taking information in. But the thing is, it doesn't just take information in between 9 and 3:30 on Monday to Friday. It takes information in at all times. And so the friends we're exposed to, the teachers that we're exposed to, yes, we'll take in opinions and we'll start to inherit attributes and traits from them. But then we'll go home and our parents, our brothers, our sisters, whoever raised us, grandparents, aunts, uncles, they'll all express opinions. They'll all do things in certain ways. And quite innocently, we absorb all of this stuff. We absorb everything. Now, quite a lot of the time, it's all very benign. It's all fairly, harmless stuff. Like a perfect example is we tend to support similar football teams or sports teams in general to those that we were brought up with. Not always, but we do tend to have that. Quite a lot of the time, we tend to be brand loyal to the same supermarkets and things like that. You can often find yourself shopping in a similar supermarket to those that you were taken to. Really, really sort of everyday stuff that we wouldn't really think about and that doesn't really have a huge significance on our life. But then every now and again, we do inherit an attitude or a belief that raises its head in a moment when we're not sure, when we're uncertain. I'll give you an example. The first time that I was eligible to vote in a general election, I had no political inclination, no political interest whatsoever. It was more the fact that, I was 18 and I could go and vote. So to go and vote, I did. But I had no idea how I was going to vote. And even walking across the car park into the polling station, I can remember how I felt. I had no idea how I was going to vote. And so, you go in, you get that slip of paper, you stand in that sort of little, 3-walled box thing. And I started thinking, I have been in this box a long time. Somebody's going to think I'm going to the loo or something and come and check on me. I had no idea. And so in that moment, in that period of uncertainty and nervousness, in the end, I just voted in exactly the same way as the household I was brought up in. No thought process behind it, nothing. I was there. I was on the pot and I had to make a decision. And therefore I voted in exactly the same way as the household I was brought up in. Now, actually, that is a completely different way to how I would vote now. And so in that moment, when I was nervous, when there was a bit of uncertainty, when I was unsure, that established set of attitudes took over and made that decision for me. Now, if we think about life as a business owner, whether it's a small business, whether you're yet to start, whether you've been in business for a long time, we encounter uncertain situations, difficult situations, nervousness, uncertainty, more than probably anybody, with the exception of perhaps healthcare professionals. And so if we're not aware of where that established set of attitudes is going to make those decisions that aren't representative of us for us, then we could be making really, really unaligned or misaligned business decisions every single day on the basis of that established set of attitudes and beliefs. They don't always represent us. A great way that I can sort of relate this to you is, imagine if you've ever done anything, you've ever reacted to a situation, happily, sadly, you come back with a quick comment or whatever, and somebody's gone, "You're just like your father," or "You're just like your mother," or "You're just like your sister." It's exactly the same. It's that established set of attitudes and beliefs. They're not necessarily representative of us. They're not necessarily representative of what we think. Now, Duncan's made a great point in the chat that social pressures are a fact as well. We do start to behave in exactly the same way as other people for fear of alienation and all of this kinds of thing. We'll talk about that in just a second. But it's quite interesting, because is anybody making us do that? No, we inherit these established set of attitudes and beliefs. And if we don't catch them or police them, then we tend to start to make decisions that are representative of other people, of those inherited attitudes and beliefs, and not ourselves. I'll give you another example. Imagine in just a moment, now I hasten to clarify that I'm not going to do this because I haven't got the admin rights, so please don't dial off. This is simply an experiment. But imagine I've got the participants panel open here, and I'm just scrolling through the names, and I can see, God, we've got a lot of Allisons on the call. Andrews, Anns, I'm just in the A's here. I could go down and get Harvey, Heather, Helen. So I'm scrolling through the names. Now imagine, in a second, I'm going to come across your name, and I'm going to say, okay, John, you are unmuted. I have taken you off mute. Please tell the 202 people on this call, please give us your 60-second pitch and tell us all about your business. What's going to go through your head in that situation? I've just unmuted you randomly with no prior qualification to give you a pitch. Panic, dread. Yeah, absolutely. I have only got one, Duncan. Yeah, so fear, cool, go for it. Yeah, anxiety. Very, very similar, very similar, very common reactions that I get to this scenario. Quite a balanced view. Some people that are okay with it, bring it on even, cool with it. But actually, if you go back through the comments there, it's fair to say that the no's or the oh my gods have it ever so slightly in this one. And that tends to be the case. There tend to be more individuals that are no, never in a million years. And therefore we tend to shy away from these situations, because if we examine the physics of what I've asked you, in this moment in time, if we examine what I've asked you to do, all I've asked you to do is talk. Something that you've done this morning, to ask for a cup of tea, to shout at the kids to get ready for school. Everybody has done it. And yet suddenly in this scenario, when I'm asking you to do exactly the same thing, your mindset's telling you it's the wrong thing to do. Why? What's at work here? Brain doesn't like change. Imposter syndrome's at work. We're scared of failure. Now, Kirsty, that's a really, really interesting point, because we're scared of failure, but fear of failure is a wonderful umbrella term, a little bit like fear of flying. Not many people are afraid to fly, but a lot of people are afraid to smack into the ground. And so what's the actual fear here? It is fear of failure tied in with lack of confidence or not being prepared or anything like that, because if we're not prepared, then that ties in. Fear of rejection. That's absolutely it, Sandra. Yes, fear of rejection. As human beings, we're pack animals. We are designed to want people to like us. Even if you're sat there thinking you are the most introverted person on the planet, as human beings, we are conditioned to want people to like us. We are conditioned to want people to engage with us and not become alienated from a crowd. And so suddenly in this scenario, the majority have gone, I'm not prepared, therefore I'm going to mess this up. Therefore, don't do it. It's an opportunity to become alienated from people that like us. Whereas in reality, what it was is an opportunity to tell 200 people, 200 business owners what you do, how you do it, and how they can help you. And this is an interesting thing, because whilst, yes, quite a few of you are up for it, great, there aren't that many people that when put in a situation that makes us feel uncomfortable, that makes us feel uncertain, we always tend to default to, what if this goes wrong? That tends to be the first thought that goes through our head. Now, that comes from natural risk aversion and all of that kind of stuff, and I understand that. But when was the last time in a situation like that we asked ourselves, well, what if this goes well? We don't do it, right? We don't ask. And I'm just as guilty of this, right? I know I'm talking through this, but I'm just as guilty of it. Everybody, when put in a situation of uncertainty, goes, well, what if this goes wrong? We never ask ourselves, what if this goes well? And yet we need to start examining that, because there is just as much likelihood. The fact of the matter is that, yes, it might not have been the most polished thing in the world, but if I'd asked anybody, if I had unmuted anybody and gone, yeah, you're live to this group, give us your 60-second pitch, you would absolutely have delivered statements, elements of value within that would have had at least, more than likely, one positive reaction off the back of it. And yet we deny ourselves these for reasons that don't exist. The best example I can give you is, when was the last time you were on Zoom and some bloke from NatWest unmuted you and said, you've got to give your 60-second pitch to 200 people, you did it and it was terrible? We don't have that memory to latch onto. If you do, that's oddly specific, and I'd like to know the person from NatWest that put you in that situation. But we don't understand, we don't have that thing to fall back on. And so it's on the basis of what our mindset tells us could happen. It's that established set of attitudes and beliefs of, oh, I've never been good at public speaking, and therefore that's the way it will stay. And it ties in with whatever it happens to be that you want to work on. And so within our hubs, and if you do get a chance to come over to one of our hubs, you'll always be welcome. You'll see this poster put up very, very regularly. Now, this is what we call the power up mindset, i.e. a list of traits, admittedly not exhaustive, that you feel that we feel an entrepreneur or a business owner should have or be working on. And so very, very quickly, I recommend, if you can, get a screenshot or even a photo of this slide, because this is a good one to give yourself a challenge with regularly. To look through this list, take a look down at all of these different traits. The ones that you know, yep, super comfortable at those, square them away. That's brilliant. You can keep those ticking over. It's the ones that you're not so confident with. And so I'm always ready to pitch on this, on the basis of this situation. I'm always ready to pitch. But what are the other ones that are perhaps holding you back? What are the other ones that you're really, really afraid of, that you acknowledge hold you back in any given situation? And then with it, whatever those are, there might be one or two, there might be just one, but whichever ones you go, yeah, I'm absolutely petrified of that, and I know that either could or is holding my business back. The reason that things tend to stay in that situation, whether it is pitching or whether it is writing clear goals or whatever it is because we always build up the pressure. We never make a connection between getting from where we are to improving that situation as a journey. It always feels overwhelming. So for somebody that has never really delivered a pitch and is, 20 years in business, that's a really, really scary prospect of, oh my God, how am I going to do that? And as entrepreneurs, we're a really, really interesting subsection of people, because we tend to expect we expect ourselves to be good at everything, and we expect ourselves to be good at everything immediately. And that's completely unfair. We wouldn't expect that of individuals that work for us. We wouldn't have that expected of us if we worked for somebody else. And yet suddenly, even if we are day one of a business, we expect ourselves to be a fully qualified finance director, HR director, marketing director, and so on and so on. And so whichever one of these traits, multiple ones you're looking at going, yeah, do you know what, that is a fear area for me. That is an area of anxiety for me. Don't challenge yourself to go, I've just got to suck it up or get on with it, or I'm just going to ignore that and put my head in the sand. Ask yourself one very simple question. What's the first thing you want to do to feel in control of that? Not how are you going to solve the problem? Not how do I overcome this in a quick win? How do I overcome this in 5 easy steps? What's the first thing you want to do to feel in control of that situation? And quite often that's picking up the phone to somebody that you know that's good at it, or that you know has contact in a particular area, or that can easily open a door for you. Concentrate on that first step, break it down. Otherwise, it's a little bit like standing at the bottom of a mountain and wondering how you're going to jump to the top. As you go up that mountain, there's going to be loads of great viewpoints. You're going to learn loads of lessons, and you're going to understand how to do things differently. So don't deny yourself that opportunity to do so. So whatever it is, whatever situation you're encountering, whatever is giving you any kind of interference or holding you back, whether it's on this slide or not, what's the first thing you want to do to feel in control of that situation? And if you take nothing else away from today, let it be that. Whatever is holding you back, what's the first thing you want to do to control that situation? And it's because it comes down to this: fixed and growth mindset. Now, you'll have come across these terms lots before, I am sure. They are they are defined by a lady called Carol Dweck, who's the professor of entrepreneurship at Stanford University in the States. Now, she did a number of experiments to define fixed or growth mindset, but the one that really, really sticks out with me is she got a group of sort of high school age school children in the States, about 100 of them, put them in an exam hall. The kids didn't know what they were going in for, and they were between the ages of about 12 and 14, so that's probably what, years 8 to 10, years 8 to 9, 10. Got them in an exam hall, and there was an exam paper face down. And when they were told to turn it over, she just wanted to measure the reaction. Now, when they turned it over, it was the equivalent of a GCSE exam, sort of 2 to 4 academic years ahead of the kids that were in front of it. She just wanted to measure the reaction. And so immediately, 30% of the kids in the room turned it over and went, oh, really? I can't do that. I can't do that. And just pushed it aside. Cannot do that. How many times can you identify in your own behavior when we've reacted that way? Can't do that. Not for me. Never been good at that. Can't do it yet. Don't know how to do it. Pushed it away. Another 30% very, very quickly opened it, had a very similar reaction. Went, oh, really? But they at least opened it. Opened it, maybe read question 1, got halfway through it, went, no, can't do that. But they at least opened it. Similar reaction. Within 30 seconds to a minute, they too had put the paper down. 60% of the room had put the paper down within a minute. Can't do that. Not for me, not there yet. Another 40% of the room opened it. They didn't look at it and go, yes, brilliant, super hard maths exam, get in. There was no reaction like that. They will have reacted in a very, very similar way. But what they did is they opened it and went, hang on a minute, I can do question 1. And I can't do question 2, but I can do question 3, and I can do question 4. And question 5's super hard, and I can't do question 6. But they kept going. For this whole half an hour experiment, they kept going. Rather than the why me attitude, it was a try me attitude. Now, this was really interesting because that sort of confirmed the 60-40 split of fixed versus growth mindset that we all tend to adopt as people. That is sort of an international average. But what happened next was really, really interesting, which was that the 60% that had self-selected out and had pushed it away, they weren't content to just sit there for the length of the experiment. They looked across, maybe to the person next to them, maybe to their best friend in the world, and saw that they were still working. Somebody in the same class, the same age, the same apparent skill level was still working. And this got really, really interesting because when they looked over, that then made them feel insecure, made them feel inferior. And so they looked to disturb, distract, and belittle those that were carrying on. In other words, when we're in a fixed mindset, we need to latch on to other people that feel the same way. Think about it. When we've needed a moan, we ring up people that we know are going to feel in exactly the same way to perpetuate how we feel. How regularly are we proactive enough to go, I'm in a bad mood, I'm ringing you to pull me out of it? We don't do that very often. And if we do it, we probably do the former more regularly than that. And so the best example I can give you is, have you ever had a positive conversation around a water machine at work? It doesn't happen very often, right? And so what we're not saying is that in order to be successful, you have to be growth mindset all the time. But what we are saying is that in order to be successful, we need to turn those fixed mindsets we've just talked about on the previous page that do hold us back into growth mindsets. Ones where we don't sit where we are in a comfortable, comfort zone, for want of a better term. We actually challenge ourselves to be like the kid that's going, well, no, I'll give it a go. I'll try it. And so to do this, we need to dive in a little bit more detail. Now, I am conscious of time, but this is there's about 2-3 slides to go. And so very briefly, to explain fixed mindset, it's the perspective that character, intelligence, and creative ability are all fixed. In other words, you're not in control of what it is that you're good or bad at. That's it. You're born with what you're good at, and that's it. Carry on. Now, a lot of people seem to take this attitude, and I take this attitude every year in January around the gym. So 2nd of January, I'll be sat on the sofa, surrounded by Cadbury's Heroes wrappers. The sofa will rustle as I move, and I'll clutch my stomach and go, right, back to work tomorrow, and I'm the fattest person I've ever met in my life. And so I'm like, that gym membership's been sat idle for 11 months. Like, I paid all that money. I'm going to the gym tomorrow. I'm going to work, and then I'm going to the gym. And so you go. And you go and you feel great afterwards. You get that endorphin hit. It's fantastic. And you're like, yeah, this is brilliant. You come home, you have a light salad. It's wonderful. You feel fantastic. Then you fast forward 2 weeks. And your calves hurt. and it's dark at 5 o'clock and it's raining. And do you know what? You think you pulled a muscle. And yesterday, I was sweating away on the treadmill at 4 miles an hour, and then Hercules got on the treadmill next to me and didn't even break a sweat. And you know what? Just some people are made for this and other people aren't. And so I'm just not going to go tonight. I've got so much work. I'm not going to go. I'm sure a lot of people on this call can relate with that, or at least I hope so, for my sake. And what's interesting there is it's nothing to do with Hercules on the treadmill next to me. It's nothing to do with the fact that I hurt. It's the fact that I don't feel a sense of progress. The fact is that after 2 weeks of going to the gym twice a week, I don't look like Hercules yet, and I can't handle that. And so fundamentally, we get into this fixed mindset of he's good at fitness and I'm not. And of course, once we don't go, that's it for another 11 months. Until I'm sat back surrounded by heroes wrappers on the sofa, I'm not going to go again. Whereas a growth mindset, and I caught myself in sort of January of 2020, having done this session for a good few years, I caught myself and I went, okay, so how do I turn this into a growth mindset? Well, a growth mindset, perhaps not surprisingly, is the belief that you can change and grow through effort, application, and experience. In other words, you are in control of what you're good and bad at. Now, to illustrate this very, very quickly, I like to use Usain Bolt. A lot of people, when he was in his pomp, sort of the back end of the noughties and into the 2010s, a lot of people went, yeah, well, of course he's good at running. He's super tall, he's super lean, and he's more leg than torso. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, he is tall and he is lean and he's got long legs. That doesn't necessarily qualify him to be as spectacular as he was. It doesn't change the fact that the reason he's so good is because he's done it more than most people. And it really, really resonated with me when I had that comparison made, because the fact of the matter is, whilst Usain Bolt loses precisely 0 sleep over the thought of a 100-meter dash with me, it doesn't change the fact that if I want to get better at running, the only person that's in control of that is me. And so, as I said, back in January last year, I caught myself and I went, right, I'm at risk of not going here. What's the first thing I want to do to feel in control of this situation? And I realized it's that I need to feel a sense of progress. And so I got myself a free app on my phone and started tracking my workouts. And I set myself a really, really simple challenge and went, every time I go to the gym, if I burn 1 more calorie than last time, or if I run, cycle, or row 1 meter further, I'm setting a personal best every single time I go. And suddenly I was only in competition with myself. I was not in competition with Hercules on the treadmill next to me. I was in competition with myself. And therefore, if I didn't go to the gym, the only person I was letting down was me. But then even on days where I didn't want to go, where I was, in pain genuinely, or, if it was stiff or whatever, I looked at it and went, but every time I've gone, there's the progress. I used to only run 1 kilometer. Now I can run 1.8. And just that lift allowed me to go. And so it really, really comes down to this growth fixed mindset. However you're feeling about something right now, it does not mean that that's the way it will stay. Mindset is a spectrum. And so whether you have a fear of public speaking and you want to overcome that, think about that pitching scenario. If you're down in a fixed mindset right now, not a problem. That doesn't mean that you have to stay there. What's the first thing you want to do to feel in control of that situation? If that's reaching out to me for a bit of advice, I'll happily support you. If you are super confident with cooking and you watch the Bake Off and critically appraise people, all it takes is 1 burnt cake when it matters, and that growth mindset will start to plummet. So we have to constantly stay abreast of where our mindset is and what we're doing. It comes down to this: E plus R equals O. Whatever happens to you, the event, plus your reaction will have a direct impact on the outcome. An event plus your reaction will have a direct impact on the outcome. Going back to what somebody said in the chat earlier on, whether you tell yourself you can or you can't do something, you're spot on. But what that really fundamentally illustrates to me is that growth fixed mindset, they are a choice. They may not feel like it. Our mindset will try and make these decisions for us on the basis of those inherited beliefs, but it is a choice. And so we have to be aware of that, and we have to start catching yourselves. And so I'm very conscious of time. And so to finish off, these are just some tips to develop your mindset. First and foremost, look at the language that you use with yourself. Whether you tell yourself you can or you can't do something, you're absolutely right. Get people involved. Get people involved to support you. Give yourself realistic timelines. But it's amazing what the difference putting the word yet at the end of I can't do that will make. The most important one, take time to reflect. Does not matter how long it takes to climb a mountain. You would not climb that mountain with your eyes shut. and wait until you're at the top to look at the view. So whether you keep a diary, whether you journal, doesn't matter. Whether you go out for a run to clear your head, perfect, but make sure you do it. And make sure within that reflection, you're asking yourself, with whatever you're struggling with, what's the first thing I want to do to feel in control of that? But I will leave that slide up. Thank you very, very much for listening to me. I hope that has been useful. I hope that's been thought-provoking. And if we can support, please do get yourself registered to Business Builder. But equally, Sandra or whoever is sort of in control of this, please do feel free to share my email address. I'll happily speak to any and all of you. But thank you very, very much. Have a great day. Thank you very much, Sandra, for the invitation. And I look forward to speaking to you all again soon. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Josh. Josh, if you were going to play us out with a tune with one of those guitars, what would you play?
Oh my goodness. I think on the basis of a bass line, it would have to be The Chain by Fleetwood Mac.
Great. Yeah. And with Murray Walker sadly passing away as well with the F1, that's the theme music. So what a lovely link there. That's Josh. Thanks for joining us. Josh will share his details and all of those other interesting things that he's been talking about in the chat box.